Hey YouTube, it's me, Mixie Tarot. So I was watching the hearings this morning on coronavirus, and I was listening today and yesterday. I was listening to Jim Jordan from the state of Ohio, and it just didn't sit right with me. It hasn't sat right with me for a while that Republicans in particular are pushing so hard for children to go back to school and not be homeschooled. So I thought I would just look into Jim Jordan a little bit. And what I found was um, he is a conservative Republican who is um, an elected congressperson for one of the most liberal places in Ohio, which I thought was weird. So then I proceeded to do a little more research, and I guess the reason it happened that he got elected is because of gerrymandering. Um, so the Supreme Court actually ruled that the state of Ohio, the way they divided up their map was unconstitutional, and now they actually have to, or they did have to revamp the map. And I think that their deadline was the month of June of this year. Um, but also in the state of Ohio, as you guys know, most inmates, most prisoners do not have voting rights. However, in the state of Ohio, you only lose, and listen, people can correct me if I'm wrong about anything that I'm saying, but in the state of Ohio, um, prisoners only lose their voting rights when they're in prison, not once they get out as well. So what they've done is they've counted prisoners who may not be able to vote while they're in prison, but do still maintain that right to vote. They actually have used those numbers to help with gerrymandering. And most of the prisons in Ohio are in Republican districts. And they don't count those prisoners as citizens from where they actually grew up or where they're from. They count them for the district that they're actually in. And most of those prisons are in Republican districts, which I thought was really interesting. Now, that being said, I'm sorry if I got a little long-winded there. That being said, I continue to look into gerrymandering and education. And as we all know, Brown versus the Board of Education happened in 1954. And so with the Brown versus the Board of Education, they ruled that segregation in public schools was unconstitutional. Um, so even though that they ruled that separate but equal is not equal, because um, segregation was causing disparages in schools for children of color compared to white kids. The public facilities were not the same, so on and so forth. These are like Jim Crow laws. So Um, Listening to, um, before I get into that, so um, basically, even though they said that separate but equal was not equal, even to this day, children of color in many communities don't have the proper facilities, books, um, access to technology, however you want to put it. Almost everything applies there. A lot of the public schools in poorer communities and communities of color, and it's not just children of color, it's poor whites as well, um, don't have the same public facilities as their white counterparts who live in better, what would be considered a better neighborhood, have more funding, or however you actually want to put it. So even though they rule separate but equal is not equal, it's still not equal to this day. We see the gerrymandering as far as elections go and dividing up districts to favor Republicans. We still see the discrimination in the lack of proper facilities for children of color, poor whites, compared to children who live in wealthier neighborhoods, or what would be considered better neighborhoods or better districts. And so when I was listening to Jim Jordan this morning, really pushing again about how important it is for children to go back to school and they have a right to education, um, it forced me to go and look at um, education in Ohio and gerrymandering. And I'm thinking to myself, how can this man sit here and say that education is important for children? I'm not saying that it's not, because it definitely is. I believe that education is important. But how can you sit there and say that education is important for all children? They have a right to an education, but yet, because of gerrymandering in the state of Ohio, the there are disparages in the districts as far as schools go. So if you feel that children have a right to an education, let's take it a little bit further and make sure that all children are getting education at the same level, that they have access to the same things. They have access to books. They have access to technology, computers, whatever it is that they need to further their education and grow their little minds. So I was just really bothered by that. Because if you're going to gerrymander to tweak the votes to go in one particular party's favor, and you're going to gerrymander schools, I'm starting to wonder if gerrymandering is why they're pushing so hard for children to go back to schools. And I haven't made the connection yet. I'm not saying that I'm right, but it's just making me wonder, why are they pushing so hard for these children to go back to school when it's not safe? Does it somehow affect the gerrymandering that's happening? So with that being said, um, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the read. Let me see if there were any other points that I wanted to make. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I should say that in the state of Ohio, 91% of inmates are in Republican districts. Now, I can't help but think that Ohio isn't the only state that does this. I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona does it. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas does it. I wouldn't be surprised if Florida does it. It wouldn't surprise me. So with that being said, I'm going to get started. I want to talk about Betsy DeVos too, but I want to get started. I'm going to start with Jim Jordan. Thank you, angels. Thank you. Show me Jim Jordan. Show me Jim Jordan. Show me Jim Jordan. Well, the safe card just tried to come out, which tells me that he feels like his position is safe. His district is safe. Let me see. Interesting. I got the powerless card, paralyzed, ineffective, and weak. And you see here this person's hands are tied. Now, I don't know what that's regarding, but maybe he feels like his voice, his opinions, and what he's saying is ineffective. He's rendered powerless in these hearings. Maybe he feels ineffective in representing the district, or maybe he feels like the people feel like he's not effective in representing their district. I got desperate, frantic, out of control for sure, because he loses his composure in these hearings, and in need, hanging on by a thread, knowing that he's hanging on by a thread as far as maybe holding his seat, continuing to hold his seat, hanging on by a thread regarding the Republican Party. The party is hanging on by a thread, and overwhelmed, swamped, inundated, and burdened. I can see that. Overwhelmed completely. I want to do Betsy DeVos. Thank you, angels. Angels, show me Betsy DeVos. Show me Betsy DeVos. Show me Betsy DeVos. Yeah. So I got the grief card. The grief card. Just, this is probably grieving over her performance. This is grieving over her performance and the position that she's in. We've got the trusting card, reliant, dependent, believing. I don't know what she's believing, but here you see these acrobats are just missing each other. She's missing the point. She can't really get things to sync. Things are not syncing the way that they should. She believes Trump, possibly. It could be a number of different things. Unfulfilled, dissatisfied, incomplete, purposeless. This is her feeling, probably in the position that she's in, she's feeling unfulfilled, sad, unhappy, joyless, dejected. These two cards are the most interesting. Encouraged, and then we got discouraged. Okay, so we have the girl encouraged, you can do it, and then falling off the bike. Aww. So thinking that she was off to a good start and just failing, falling off that bike. Okay. Okay, angels. Why, angels, why are they pushing so hard for children to go back to school? Why are they pushing so hard for children to go back to school? Why are they pushing so hard for children to go back to school? Why are they pushing so hard for children to go back to school? Why are they pushing so hard for children to go back to school? So the first thing that came out was the prudence card in reverse, not taking the precautions that that they should. What crosses them is weakness. Um, at the base of the reed, which we already know is the control card in reverse, the virus being out of control. We got the Emperor in reverse. This is probably Trump. This could be others in the administration. At the top of the reed, we have the construction card. I feel like this is the virus. And then in the future, I got the joy card. The joy card. I'm not sure why. I'm going to just look and see what the joy card actually means. Every deck is different, so interesting. So with the joy card, what it's suggesting is that in order to attain joy, you have to have balance. And right now, there's no balance as far as the virus goes, as far as having things under control. So it's going to be a disaster. Of course, the devil came out. This is a recipe for disaster. We got the transformation card, the transformation card. I'm not sure what this is regarding. It could be here. So so I'm going to put these, so this would be the feelings card, the feelings regarding the situation, and this would be hopes and fears. So I'm going to interpret this as being fear of the transformation. Okay, so sorry about that. I had a phone call. So the final card that came out is Judgment. In forcing children to go back to school, this is going to force consequences from the virus on families, on teachers, on grandparents. It's not going to have a good outcome. Why are they pushing for children to go back to school during the pandemic? Why are they pushing for children to go back to school during the pandemic? Why are they pushing so hard for children to go back to school during the pandemic? Why are they pushing for children to go back to school during the pandemic? They are going to force people to go into a situation where they don't know what the outcome will be. Like they're asking people to be brave and go into the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen, and it's going to be an epic failure. It's going to be an epic failure. Does forcing the kids back into school have anything to do with gerrymandering? Does forcing the kids back into school have anything to do with gerrymandering? Does forcing the kids back into school have anything to do with gerrymandering? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it. Let me see. Does forcing the kids back into school have anything to do with gerrymandering? Does forcing the kids back into school have anything to do with gerrymandering? Yeah. There was some sort of plan in place. I don't know if it necessarily has to do with gerrymandering, but there was some plan in place that they had. And by the kids not being in school, it's going to affect the plan. And it does also have to do with money. If they're going to have to change or shift the money somehow, redirect money for education if kids don't go to school. Um, Show me the children going back to school. Show me the children going back to school. So I got trusting children are trusting. Like they just trust that the situation is going to work itself out. They don't really burden themselves with adult problems. Um, I got the inadequate card, worthless, incompetent, and ill-equipped. It's just there's not a good plan in place. Confused. This is confusion. Puzzled by it. I got the fulfilled card, satisfied, self-actualized, at peace. I think that the children are perfectly fine with staying at home to finish their studies until it's safe to go back to school. Overwhelmed, this could be the teachers, this could be the parents, this could be grandparents, this could be elected officials. Um, Powerless, I got the powerless card. This is the powerless card. This also came out for Jordan. Um, the plan being ineffective and weak, people feeling that they really don't know, they're just stuck and they don't know what direction to actually go in. Receptive, like I guess these are the schools welcoming the kids back with open arms and kids longing to go back to school, or it could to just be home. This is yearning, wistful, and homesick. Like once the kids go to school, they may prefer to just they would much prefer to be at home possibly. And the happy card, being happier. This could go either way. Some kids being happier doing the homeschooling thing, or being happy that they're able to go back to school. Okay, so I didn't really get much on whether the gerrymandering has anything to do with them pushing for kids to go back to school, but it does, however, have something to do with them having to redirect money if the kids don't go to school. And that's something that they don't want to do, possibly because there's educational gerrymandering, and that money could be divided amongst districts, more money being given to better districts that would be considered better as far as education goes, and them having the adequate facilities, and then less money going into those schools that are in poor neighborhoods, or and not having the proper facilities and access to necessary study materials, whatever it might be, or technology. And so if the kids don't go back to schools, that money has to be redirected. Now, if everybody gets homeschooled under the same program, then everybody gets educated the same way. Possibly. I'm just throwing it out there. Let me ask. If children are homeschooled, would all children get? If children are homeschooled, will the education, will they get fair education? Would homeschooling be better for kids who have fewer opportunities and access to proper facilities? Victory. I will take that as a yes. I will take that as a yes. Let's see what else is there. Secrets, things that they're hiding from us. We got the Two of Swords, being at a crossroads and having to make a decision. We got the Prudence card in reverse, not being cautious. We got the Emperor in reverse. We got the Queen of Discs, the Nurturer, the Hanged Man being stuck. We got the Tower, of course. We got the Ace of Cups. Ooh, Wheel of Fortune in reverse. That's with the virus. Let's see what else is there. It's a hard decision. I mean, how do you make it work? If kids are going to have to be homeschooled, how does that work? Do the teachers work from their own home and teach classes? And what about those kids who don't have access to the internet or to computers? Do you buy those computers and lend them out to the students so that they can be homeschooled? I think that would be fair. I think that would be okay. That's my own personal opinion. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Makes the tarot out. You guys have a good weekend.